Alright guys, welcome back to another tying video with Old Florida. My name is Mike. Today we're going to be tying the Offshore Mahi fly. This is a simple little baitfish fly. It's very quick to tie, super effective for those offshore pelagic fish. So let's jump onto the vise and get to tying. To start off with, I have a 600 SP in the vise. I'm going to start my mono thread and I'm going to work my way a little bit in front of the point of the hook. I'm going to get a nice tight thread base down at the bottom. Let me trim that tag off. So I'm only using two colors right now. You could use as many as you want. I do tie this in white, blue, and a white, light blue, and a dark blue. But first thing I'm going to do is take a clump of material off of my little patch right here. This is fish scale. It has built-in flash and it's almost like a super hair material. It is extremely durable and has a lot of really good color in there, so I do like to tie with it quite a bit for my offshore stuff. Extremely durable. So first thing, take my fingers, I'm going to do a pinch wrap, lock that material right on the top of the side of the shank of the hook. I'm going to wrap forward about 6-7 wraps. I'm going to fold this material back and I'm going to capture that right on the top of the shank of the hook again. Couple wraps, not too many, maybe 6 wraps or so. I'm going to fall back off again. We're actually just going to repeat this step 3 or 4 times. So same exact thing. I'm going to grab another little clump of fiber. This is not too much material. You definitely don't want to add too much bulk, but I'm going to add another piece right on top. I'm going to start my tie-in right in front of that piece that we fell off on. I actually spin my bobbin with this mono thread. That way I could capture the material a little bit better. That thread wants to kick backwards toward my finger. Makes it a little easier. So I'm going to tie right to that thread bump, fold this material back, and then wrap forward again. We're going to keep repeating that step. Just kind of pull that material back. Do the same thing with another clump. We're going to do this about 3 or 4 times with the same color. Once in a while you will get a couple of tangly fibers in here. I actually just hop in here with a little comb sometimes. These knots do make the fly a little bit hard once you're working with this material, so I do suggest you comb them out, especially for the gluing process. It does help to have nice straight even material to start out with. I'm going to repeat that same step, measure the tail, tie it right in the middle. Go all the way back to our thread bump. I'm actually going to tie it a little bit further up and then move it back to our thread bump. Fold that back while pulling tension. Wrap forward just a couple times. So far we got 3 clumps in. So I'm going to do another clump of this chartreuse. The chartreuse in blue, after we color it with some more blue, it basically imitates a little dolphin or mahi-mahi. And the bigger pelagics, dolphin, tuna, wahoo, kingfish, all of those fish absolutely tear up baby dolphin. So that's what we're trying to imitate. Take another clump, tie it right up in front. Like I said, I'm going to spin my bobbin first. That way that thread wants to kick back toward my finger. It makes capturing that material quite a bit easier. Wrap back, lift up, tie it down. So that's going to be our 4th tie-in. Now I'm going to take my top color. If you want, you could add a lighter blue here. I'm not going to. I'm going to go just straight to dark blue. This last clump that you add in, especially if you're doing one color, I would make it a little bit heavier on material than the first couple clumps. That way we get to cover our eyes with the material a little bit better. So once I have that clump of material, a little bit too heavy on there, so I'm going to pull a little bit out. Do a nice tight pinch wrap. Capture it, work our way a little bit above our material, our green material, in this case chartreuse material, a little bit further back on top of it. I'm going to pull back that material again, capture just the tip. Sweep everything back, put a couple tight wraps, It's okay if this monothread slips off the tip a little bit. It happens. Ideally, I want to just tie it right on top. Then I'm going to whip finish, just with a couple whip finishes. I'm going to do 2 sets of 3. Perfect. Now we could take our scissors and trim that out. Set our bobbin aside. I'm going to take my comb and just kind of comb this material out a little bit. This is kind of a crucial step, so definitely take your time. Make sure it's laying flat. I do want to make sure this stuff is nice and combed out. This is the done tying portion of the fly, but there's a little bit left to do. All right. If you get a couple flyaways or underneath, just go ahead and pop them out there. So now I could take this off of our vise. Actually, I'm going to pop it back on the vise for this last step. My apologies. I'm going to come in here with our eyes. So I'm using Loctite gel. These are 3D eyes. These are very large eyes. I personally love eyes on flies. I think the fish really key on them. Don't be afraid to put a healthy amount of glue on these eyes when you're tying them in or gluing them in. I put a nice little dab of glue on that side. And then when you do glue these eyes in, I hold my pointer finger right on the underside of that shank of the hook so it doesn't go past the underside. And I just try to manipulate it where I want that material from the head barely coming out. It's going to be hard if I invert this fly, but you could see right in the front here, that material is barely coming out there. I like to keep my fly inverted when I'm doing the eyes. I think it just helps straighten everything out. You don't have to fight gravity. Same thing, healthy little clump of glue. Although we are gluing these eyes in a little bit, I like to make sure I have plenty of glue on there. Same thing, and make sure they're nice, straight, and even. It's okay if they slip and slide just a little bit. You kind of manipulate that material in the front. Try to sit it right in front of the eyes. Perfect. All right. I'm going to comb that out once or twice more. There we go. Now I'm going to take it off my vise. Cover my glue up. All right. The next step is we need to glue the actual pattern. And for that, we're going to be using this Softex material. It is not a super hard glue, so as the name implies, Softex, it's almost like a rubbery kind of material that you're going to feel. But I'm going to comb this out on my little piece of paper that I have here. I would recommend doing it this way if possible. Take that Softex, open it up. Preferably do this in a vented room because this stuff is potent. So with my bodkin, I'm going to dip it right in that Softex. I'm going to drop it a couple drops right behind those eyes. I like to cover my bodkin. Then we're just going to apply it pretty liberally, pretty healthy amount right on there. Don't go too far back on the material. I only want to glue that first maybe 1.5 inches or so. I take the tip of my bodkin as well. You can lift the fly up and manipulate it. Don't get it caught in the lid though. Done that. Try not to work that material too far back because I do want that flowy nature of that DNA fiber or fish scale fiber. You can use DNA as well, but it's discontinued material. Keep working that Softex in there. I'm actually going to hold the fly up. I'm going to dot that right on the eyes. And I'm going to turn this fly over and do Softex all on the bottom side. Basically just coating the first 1 inch or so, 1.5 inches fully with this stuff. Makes for a super durable fly. And another great thing is this fly does not foul at all. Even though most of the time you will be fishing this fly on a full sinking line like a T11 or a full intermediate sonar, something a little bit heavier to get down, and then dredge these fish up. Most of the bigger tunas are in 40, 50 feet of water during that earlier morning part of the day. So that's really what this fly is for. Kingfish, wahoo, tuna on the ledge, saying anywhere from around 100 to 300 feet of water, at least down here in Southeast Florida. So once I have this Softex all coated throughout there, I'm going to go ahead and close this up before I faint. Kind of just work that material a little bit. You can manipulate it, just whatever you do, don't run all the way to the back of the material. You want it to be somewhat flexible in the back. You can take your bodkin, and if those materials start clumping up a little bit, just work that bodkin through that material so you create some separation. I like a bigger, wider profile, so I try to keep it obviously a little more full and a little more wide. And then I'm going to come in here, and while this is still wet, you could totally do this. It's not going to really affect anything, but I'm going to go ahead and bar with blue on top of the blue, just a couple little bars. I take this extra sheet that I have just to make solid, clean lines. Just going to keep barring that up. You can put as many or as little as you want. I like to go all the way back to the tail. We are going to trim this fly just a little bit to give it some shape. I'm actually going to come back here. Mess it up just a little bit, so I'm going to re-straighten it out. For that last one, I'm just going to use my hand. Perfect. I'm actually going to turn this marker around, and now I have a little thin side. I'm just going to mark up a couple little dots. If you look at a dolphin or mahi-mahi that we're trying to imitate, all I'm going to do is just dot up this fly a little bit. I'm going to flip it over. This Softex does dry pretty quick, so you don't have to worry about really losing that material as far as it getting everywhere. It does dry relatively quick, especially if you have some air on it. Just remember, don't comb from the front, all the way from the front to the back. I want these materials in the back to be nice and flowy. So I'm going to come in here with my big scissors. These are going to be my EP scissors, and when I trim this fly, I'm going to just start from the back, kind of work my way up. I'm not cutting it fully, but I'm working my scissors up. I'm just kind of trimming some of that out, basically thinning it. Awesome. Not much trimming on this fly. It's actually really, really easy to tie and a super effective pattern. I'm going to take my little red, add a little bit of flare right behind the gill right there. Awesome. That 600 SP hook, super deadly, super sticky. Very easy pattern to tie. It's a high tie pattern. Big eye's gonna ride like that in the water. That big hook's gonna help it keel down. So that's pretty much a done pattern. Super effective. Fish it on a full sinking line. Throw it offshore in the ocean. Big pelagics. I'm sure it'll work other places. Cuba for sailfish, especially just kind of throwing it out at them. Old bait and switch tactic works pretty damn well. So give it a shot. As always, we hope to see you guys out in the water.